Hey, Ron, are there going to be any slides shared during this meeting?
I think everything that we're showing this evening has been sent to everybody by email.
Okay, because I can no longer see the meeting. It looks like I'm just phone only now.
And we are now live on YouTube and on our website.
Oh, there we are. We got 3 of us. This is water, by the way.
Sure it is.
2 olives fell in it. I don't know why, but.
So Terry, did you get my last text?
Yeah. Today? Yes. Interestingly disappointing.
All I can say is unbelievable.
Well, we have 5 minutes to go.
Yeah, I'm looking to see if I have panicked messages that people can't get in.
It was pretty simple. I mean, I just pushed the icon or whatever on the link and it connected right up.
Yep.
Here comes Sharon. Hi, Sharon.
Hello.
Hi, Stefan.
Hello, Sharon.
Hello, Terry.
How are you?
Fine. How are you doing?
Yes, wonderful.
Are you working from home?
Yes, I should turn the camera around. You can see where I write these little things on the wall like a prisoner, number of days.
Kind of looks like that's where you're at, but the room looks big, bigger than a cell.
Not much. Not much.
Hey, Matt.
Hi, Ron.
Oh, there's Matt.
Hey, Matt.
Is that Chris trying to call in?
It's Chris on.
Very good. We can hear you. Jeez, someone's having a rumble.
At the end.
Hello, Mayor.
Hello.
Lou.
There's Andy. There's Chris.
Hi, Lou.
Hi there.
I don't see Lou yet.
There's Lou.
Lou.
All right.
Mr. D, how are you tonight?
You can see everybody at once.
How are the Ridgewood Donnellans doing?
There we go.
Good. Good. Their mother has decreed that all the homeschoolers have graduated. So,
did you see that? I got this one thing. I think Putoff has all sorts of interesting things he posts, but one was, do you realize in 20 years, the country's going to be run by a group of people who were homeschooled by day drinkers? I think it's a positive myself.
What's in there? Iced tea?
Pure water.
Okay, okay. With 2 olives or not?
I don't do olives.
This is water, water.
Mr. Andy, how are you?
Doing good. How are you?
Good.
Hi, Jen.
Oh. Hi, everyone. Hi, Jen.
Hello.
So how do we get the Brady Bunch thing up on our screen? I only have one at a time.
It means that Sharon is Alice.
Ah!
Are you using an iPhone?
No, an iPad.
You should be able to click like up in the top right corner, like a speaker view, or change it to a gallery view.
Gallery view is what you want.
Mine just says live on YouTube.
Yeah. Touch the screen, and there'll be switch camera, switch the gallery view.
Wait a minute. I see. Switch to gallery. There we go.
You got everybody?
So just so everybody knows, we are live on YouTube and on our website.
Good.
Here's Roger.
Very good. So keep it clean.
I can.
I heard from Mr. Pridenoff. He is not available this evening. I went over the agenda with him, and he said that he was good with us going ahead and going on. He requested that that we send him the video while we have it for when we're working on the minutes and everything, and that he'll chime in at that time with me if he had any input.
Okay, well, it's 6:31.
All right. Do we have, yes, this is, do we have Danny and I see Roger is Park, right?
We do not have Danny or REA.
Okay.
But you're not going to have Eric, so
Yeah, we're not going to have REA.
we're waiting for Danny to come in.
Yeah. Give it a.
Somebody's coming in. It's 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 4 out of 6, so we can start.
So we have quorum.
Yep.
I'm going to allow there to be, my clock says 6:32. I'm going to allow 1 more minute, and then I'll ask you all to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, without objection, I'm going to suggest that we go ahead and get started. welcome to everyone. Thank you for everyone who is visiting us and to
Steph and Danny is coming in now.
Okay.
That's been coming in and out. Oh, there he is.
All right, welcome.
He's connecting. Yep.
All right. Let's make sure we can hear you, Danny.
How you doing, guys?
Hey, fantastic. All right. Well, I'm going to stand, and if you would join me in the Pledge Allegiance to our Republic.
So, Mayor, can we just let everybody know we are being recorded and we're live on YouTube and on the Golf Manor website.
Very good. I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of
the United States of America,
to the
and to
republic,
the republic for which it stands,
stands,
one nation,
under
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
and justice for all.
liberty and justice for all.
It doesn't work when everybody's talking.
Yeah. If we have the occasion to do this again, I might suggest that we just mute everybody, and I'll say it, and you can just join me at.
You can mute yourself individually.
Yes. Couple just housekeeping announcements before we do a roll call and the poll for quorum, and that is, if I'll try to, if I see people joining in late, I will reiterate this. But if there are any questions from non-council members, we will have a time at the end of the meeting to hear those questions. Please direct them via private chat. You have a button if you've joined us by Zoom, you have a button at the bottom of your screen that allows you to go into chat. Please find Andy Lanzer in that chat section and private message him your question, and we will address that at the end. If you have called in and you don't have access to that, I will ask you basically at the end if you have any questions that you'd like us to address. To the council members, I would request that you say your name or try to remember to say your name when you are speaking up. Even though we do have the video, sometimes it can get confusing if several people are talking or if someone's looking away from the screen from a moment. Let's see. So let's, Mr. Lanzer, would you help us out with the roll call and poll for quorum?
Yes. Mr. Betcher?
Yes.
Ms. Cheney?
Yes. Sorry.
Mr. Knipp?
Here.
Mr. Marks?
Here.
Mr. Priedenoff? Mr. Van Harn?
You're muted.
Oh, there it is. It didn't work the first time. Yes, I'm here.
All members present except for Mr. Priedenoff.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to excuse Mr. Priedenoff? As I said, he did contact me about his absence today.
Motion to excuse.
I'll second.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Without objection, I'll take that as unanimous. Thank you. The next order of business, I have it. Please correct me if I'm wrong. I'm looking at a draft of our agenda. Oh, I guess we got to approve the agenda. That would be the next thing.
Motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
All right, without objection, I'll take that as unanimous. And for my report, I have a couple of things that hopefully will be faster than last time. First, I wanted to read some of my notes from the mayor's meeting that we had with the governor about a week and a half ago, address some of those points, specifically with regard to the COVID pandemic, share some information about that, and then go over some resources that are available to our residents, as well as some of the calls that I've received from the residents. I suspect that this won't take more than 15, 20-ish minutes. In the call with Governor DeWine, he shared that they are using models from Cleveland Clinic and from Ohio State to predict, how this is playing out, to have a sense of how things are going to go. With regard to that, their expectation is that the peak of this thing is going to be within the next couple of weeks. Again, it all comes down to how great these models are from Cleveland Clinic and from Ohio State. What they're looking at in terms of those next 2 weeks is that at the peak of this, that we would have about 10,000 new cases per day when we hit that. That's across the state of Ohio. With regard, if you have not been keeping up with the numbers in Hamilton County, what it looked like, I'm going to go back 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago on Wednesday, we had 2 cases that were hospitalized in Hamilton County. We had 28 cases in Hamilton County that had been reported. Last week on Wednesday, that 22 went to 60. I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong number. We had 28 cases 2 weeks ago on Wednesday. That went up to 81 cases last week and 140 cases this week. In terms of hospitalizations, which is the real kind of rub in terms of the, making sure that we're within, or the concern that we'll be within our capacity. 2 weeks ago, that was 2 cases. Last Wednesday, that was 13 cases. And the most recent numbers that I received was that there's 27 folks that are hospitalized in Hamilton County. This does not include the city of Cincinnati, which has their own board of health, and they keep track of their numbers separately. The last that I looked at that, they were about 3 additional ones that had been hospitalized, but I've not seen that number from today updated. The Governor DeWine emphasized that that there are 37 states that have, at the time of his report, there were 37 states that had stay-at-home orders, and he pointed out that the states that did the stay-at-home order early, if you look at those states, they're doing much better than the states that didn't do that as soon. And I bring that up with respect to the concern about what's going on in the next couple of weeks with regard to this being kind of the peak time of contagion, and thereby being the peak time that we're going to be getting so many numbers, to really ask that all public officials continue to encourage people to stay the course, and especially over these next couple weeks. We are doing well compared to other states. Hamilton County as well, we're number 5 in terms of the counties in Ohio with regard to the number of cases that we have. There's some charts that have been put out as kind of evidence of how this the stay at home and the physical social distancing, how that's all working out. I think one of the more popular ones that the Ohio Board of Health put out is a graph that shows what incidents of flu look like this year compared to incidents of flu last year. And what you see is the 2 lines, last year and this year, being like right on top of each other, pretty much all the way up until the stay-at-home order. And then the one for last year kind of goes out like this, kind of comes down. And the one for this year for flu goes like this, right? So the inference from this is that we're seeing the same kind of thing, or we'll see the same kind of thing, not necessarily straight down, but it's evidence that the physical social distancing is working, all the things that we're putting into place. Other evidence of that with regard to Hamilton County and where we're at with that is the original numbers that we were looking at in terms of how we would back up our hospitals in terms of those capacity concerns. Is we're looking at using the Duke Energy Center as I mentioned in our previous meeting, and having 1,000 beds in there to cover it. They've rolled that back to 500, and the current estimate is having 100 extra beds should cover it, and they're looking at changing the venue because they won't need something that large. So this is great news, but everybody is reasserting, please continue the messaging that we need to stay the course on this because of the expected peak being next week. And with regard to the next 2 weeks being the most contagious times that we will have out and about in the community, I want to do a shout out to the Delhi Township trustee, Rose Sturts, who, when I started looking for masks, for homemade masks for our employees that didn't otherwise have a mask, so they could have a mask that they could take home to use or use here in the office as needed, as they wanted. She was able to get a hold of 20 masks that covers our 17 employees. They look like this, pretty awesome, a little elastic and everything. So we have those available to all our employees here in the municipal building, which is pretty fantastic. So very grateful to her about that. Let's see here. Of course, there's going to be a lasting impact of this, and Mr. Lanzer and Mr. Hirth will speak to some of the financial implications of this. I'll basically out of the governor's office, what they were pointing out that it was in very simple terms that I could understand was that there's been a 40% reduction in driving. All right. And what that means is when you consider the gas tax, which goes to funding state programs, there's going to be a 40% reduction in that that we've been receiving. So there's going to be, and they've sent out more specific numbers, which Mr. Lanzer and Mr. Hirth have sent Mr. Betcher and I reports on, the anticipated effect of this financially. The recommendation has been that municipalities prepare for this by looking at 20% reductions in their operations, in their budget. We have, the administration has already been putting things into place that help us approach that ideal. And most significantly, I want to point out and thank Mr. Hirth for this and all those that were involved. We were running with a surplus. We've had money in reserve, and that the administration at times have been criticized for, why do we need this? This is why we need that kind of a thing. And it was fantastic that we're in the position that we're in, and they will speak more to that. But I want to take this opportunity to make sure that everyone was aware that the reason, a big part of the reason why we're in the better fiscal shape that we're in this crisis is because of the foresight of this administration. In terms of the resources that are available, and again, the financial effects of this, and I'll say one more thing about using our reserves and everything. It's estimated that the financial effects of this aren't going to just be 1 year, that this could potentially go out much longer because of the impact that's been going on to businesses globally, as well as here in the United States. And of course, as you're all aware, as everyone is aware, big toll on people wherever they work, right? There's a lot of people out of work when you look at the number of people that are on unemployment right now or filing for unemployment. Or who are concerned about being laid off. It's unprecedented numbers in my lifetime. All right. There are local resources that I want to bring to your attention, both in terms of this being broadcast, but also in terms of some of these I'm going to be asking within the next 24 hours that we get them up on the website. I'll get them in a format that Mr. Hirth can get these up on the website. And I will also endeavor to get it out to each of the elected officials here in a PDF format. So if you encounter you know anybody, whether it be family, friends, anybody in the community, that you have a list of resources that that you can share. And I am tracking those and trying to keep up to date with that. So here's some of that information. The local food pantries, we have a list of the ones that are closest to us are in Bond Hill. There's a number of things going on with that. There are churches who, and I'm aware of one of them that has said, if you know anybody that can't get to the food pantry and needs food delivered to them, to let them know. So certainly I would ask each of you who are connected to a community church or a community synagogue or a place of worship and faith, where to ask about whether your community is doing things like this, because it's very likely that they are, and you may not know about it if you don't already know about it, to direct people to that. If you're not, and you find or they're not, and you find that someone is in need of that kind of service, contact me. Like I said, we have a connection with one of the local churches that said that they will, that they're happy to help get meals to folks here locally. There's been some changes in the resources surrounding food for kids. They no longer require, when you pull up to pick up, these are meals that are available to anyone ages 1 to 18, all right? They were requiring that you just have to have them in the car when you pull up, and on Mondays, you'll get 2 breakfasts and 2 lunches for each child that was in the car. Same thing on Wednesday, and then 1 lunch and 1 breakfast for Fridays. They've changed the rule about having the kids in the car. You just have to pull up and say, this is how many that I need. Most of these places are familiar with the folks that are coming in, so there's not an issue with that. And they also have changed the hours on that. It's only available for an hour now, so it's between 11 and 12 that folks, it was until 1 o'clock. So it's been changed from 11 to 12. These locations, I believe, are up on our website already. There has been some changes to that, so I'll be advising the administration on updating our website to make sure that it has all the locations up to date. The list that we have is clickable, so you can click on the location. We'll give you a Google map of how to get there. There's been changes in the Metro bus service as well. They are charging fees. There was a period of time there where they were looking at removing all fees, so about a week worth of time where they were not charging fees on the Metro bus. They've since changed their plan on that, so they're back to changing the fees. The significant piece is as well is that the routes have changed. Most folks that are dependent on using this on a daily basis are aware of those changes, but there are a number of people that are using, have to use the Metro bus service for their emergency transportation, or for their, you know, they're not necessarily up to date that there's been changes in the bus system, maybe the places that they go once a month or something. So that's information to be spreading out there. The protocol around COVID testing has changed in part. They used to allow that you self-refer if you call in and give your insurance information and all that. They're not allowing that anymore. You have to have your doctor refer you. So the message to get out to people who have concerns about that, or to have them contact their doctor and ask that their doctor refer them if appropriate. A lot of this you may already know, and I still feel that it's important to get that information out there. Final resources, there's these are coming from the Cincinnati Public Schools. There's a couple announcements. One, at school, there's sometimes there are children that have medication that has been kept at the school, And if that was the case for a parent and they're low on their medication or need that medication that was kept at the school, that's all been turned over to the Cincinnati Health Board. That's different than the Hamilton County Board of Health, but that's the location that they would go to or that they would call in order to get a hold of the medication for their children to pick that up. There's also information, there's a number of our kids in Cincinnati Public Schools that have been receiving mental health services in the school through an organization you may have heard of called Mind Peace. They are doing teleservices just like many of our medical providers are now, and that is up and available now for those students if their families feel that they would benefit from continuing some of those services through a telehealth environment. That's available now. Again, all this stuff will be with the links, and the contact information will be up on the website. In terms of the resident calls,
Mayor
yes.
Densmore, real quick, you should be aware that your screen is freezing regularly. So there's a lot of times where you're just like a still photo. So everyone else seems to be live, and you seem to be on. There's something going on there, just to make you aware.
The audios work though.
So the audio works.
The audio is fine. The video is constantly freezing.
All right. Well, the audio is the most important piece, so I'm grateful for that. I am using the public Wi-Fi, and that's because I didn't think to get the passwords ahead of time until everybody had already left. So next time we do this, hopefully that will be better. With regard to residential calls that have come in, I'm going to highlight two of them. There's a couple other issues that I'm dealing with administration and Chief Campbell with separately. But one of the concerns that I was receiving is, those coupon bags that get thrown in the yard. There was a resident that had contacted me on behalf of not just themselves, but of others who were concerned about having to pick that up and whether there's, whether that's a possible avenue of contagion that's coming into their yard, and what can they do about that. And I followed up with the organization, and I have personal experience with having a very difficult time dealing with getting those stopped from coming into my yard. They don't come into my yard anymore, but I recall that a number of years ago, I had a really hard time getting those to stop. And I've been in conversation with whoever the person is. Hold on a second. The senior circulation manager that is in charge of our neighborhood. And he has assured me that they take those COVID-19 concerns very seriously, and that he's working on making sure that residents who do not want those thrown into their yard, that those will not be thrown into their yard. However, since he has said that, several weeks have gone by, and the residents have reported that they're continuing to come, even though I personally submitted their addresses as addresses for this gentleman to be dealing with. Another one of the calls has to do, and I have personal experience with this most recently. I have, what is it called? The recycling, clothes recycling folks. Simple recycling. So I've got like 5 bags of clothes. We had a lot of time for spring cleaning, as I'm sure a lot of people may have. In the midst of everything going on, one of the things that my wife has been doing has been getting up like all the old clothes and everything. And so anyway, we've had these 5 bags sitting out in our yard for about 3 or 4 weeks. Somebody, even after I had already complained about this, somebody complained on my behalf. I got an email that from Simple Recycling saying that they had received my complaint when I had sent mine several weeks earlier and had already received the statement. So anyway, that's for any residents that are dealing with that. We're working on it and trying to get that fixed up. And I believe that is, there's a number of conversations that I've been having with chairs of committees about looking forward to events for after the stay-at-home order is lifted. One of the things that's been emphasized, if you have not heard, coming down from the state most recently, is that we should all be looking at, in terms of our businesses, in terms of the operations that we're involved with, that COVID-19 isn't going to go away after the next 2 weeks. Even after the state of emergency is eventually lifted, it's still going to be an issue, and a significant one, until there's a vaccine that's available. So we should be looking at a lot of the protocols that we're putting in place, continuing those as a matter of public safety, even after the stay-home order is lifted. And so, of course, invite everyone's ideas on that for our municipality and for our village. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to the administrator's report.
Hi there. I'm going to dovetail on what Stefan was talking about. Billy Simpson is in here in an audio call with us. We're going to be posting online that the Welcome Wagon is going to offer to deliver groceries to residents who have an interest in that service. They have worked out a way to just have people contact Billy personally, and then they'll do the shopping and then do a curbside drop off for folks. So that's a great thing that's coming up with the things that the mayor talked about. Everybody hear that?
Yes.
Okay, good, thank you. All right, so to get into the meat of my report here, Gulf Manor is abiding by all orders from Governor Mike DeWine regarding our operations during the coronavirus outbreak. I think you're all aware that Volunteer Park has been closed per the governor's orders, and we also have the municipal building closed to public access. Our staff continues its commitment to serve and support our residents as circumstances evolve, and we're doing that by regular sanitation of the building, making sure that people are staying in quarantined areas and that we're social distancing, in addition to working remotely in rotation throughout the week. So there are days that Anna is not there, there are days that I'm not there, there are days that Andy's not there. But fortunately, I'm close by that if something has to be taken care of, I can jump in from home and get down there. The Stover Road project, let's talk about that for a little bit. It will continue through the COVID-19 event. Road construction is considered an essential service. I have been in contact with several residents who've had questions or concerns. We are asking that residents do not engage the construction workers. They have their own protocols for social distancing and staying safe. And if there's any questions that they have, the construction folks are sending them back to us. The curb crew, in terms of replacing the curbs, will start removing sections from Losanaville Avenue to Bremont within the next 2 weeks, weather permitting. That's going to be the first section that they start. The actual tear out of the road probably isn't going to happen until closer to the end of April, and that'll be the section from Bremont to Rosedale. At this time, the water main project is completed. They have a couple of touch-up things that they need to do, but that'll be done by the end of this week. Unfortunately, as the mayor had mentioned, everybody's tightening budgets, and that may have a severe impact on the Vera Road project. We've been notified by our construction manager that there is discussion at the State House that some of the budget projects that were already approved for 2020, 2021 have most likely been scuttled. So we may have to go back through another process of approval and trying to gain that grant again. We don't know that for sure yet. What I think is helpful is that we did go in and do some repairs on the service drive on Vera. That has, and I think Mr. Lanzer can attest to this, that has calmed down the number of complaints and calls that we get from that pretty extensively. And the one thing that we may decide that we want to do is, if we don't get that funding, is to just go ahead and the village pay directly for fixing the Stover Avenue or the service drive. So that's something that we'll be thinking about over the next couple of weeks. Everything has been about the budget for the last 3 weeks, our fiscal solvency. We have put a spending freeze in place. Andy is going to talk more specifically about data that we've received from Rita, the state auditor, and the county auditor in terms of what revenues we might anticipate losing. And he's going to speak more specifically about those issues as they will relate to our bottom line for the end of 2020. And then finally, I would like to recognize our maintenance team, Jason Kurth, Joe Farthy, and Andy McGinnis. They did a fantastic storm cleanup from the storms last Wednesday night. We had a lot of trees down. There were power lines down at Vera and Fair Oaks. They did a fantastic job getting that cleaned up. That was all at the direction of Andy. Andy was out there picking up tree limbs and big hunks of stuff with the rest of them. So I appreciate that help, and it was a great opportunity to do some good work for the village. And that is the end of my report.
Thank you, Mr. Hirth. The one is, while we're thanking employees, I neglected to give a shout out during my report to the police and fire department and the maintenance staff that put on an impromptu parade for one of our residents who was having one of our younger residents who was having a birthday. This is something that I've seen that is going on regularly in Montgomery. I saw that they had like 30 requests and had accomplished like half of those. And in response to that, in response to just what the wonderful, wonderful feedback that we got from this, I've asked Mr. Hirth to coordinate with Chief Campbell to make sure that we have something available to make this keep happening in Gulf Manor, because it was really wonderful. There's a video of it that's up, I believe, on the if it's not up on the Go Golf Manor website, it's on Facebook someplace, because I was able to see the video of it. And just again, thank you to all those involved in making that happen, in the police department, fire department, and maintenance department.
So there's actually 2 videos out there on K9 Chief's Facebook page. One is from the perspective of the officers, and the other is the perspective of the area from, I believe it's Mr. Horn's residence. So.
Right. With that, Mr. Lancer, your report.
Alrighty, I sent, each of you should have received a document that has some charts has been built upon the information we've received primarily through Rita, as well as the county auditor. It covers income tax, property tax. Then there's the item number 3 is general fund budget and what that looks like right now. And then there's a section, the last section is called further considerations. In terms of income tax, we received information last week from Rita stating that we should be expecting reductions in income tax receipts in the amount of $63,500. It's never great to hear that. I think in terms of income tax revenue, though, we are well positioned. Reason why is that number, $63,500, is a reduction from what we received last year. So we received $784,000 in income tax receipts in 2019. If we have the reduction, if that comes to fruition, that we lose out on $63,000, that will bring our total income tax receipts to, I'm sorry? Are you all
I'm going to request that everyone but Andy mute themselves, please. We're having some background noise.
All righty. So the new projection from RETA for our income tax receipts is $721,000. We based our 2020 appropriations budget on a conservative estimation of income tax receipts of $715,000. So there, I think we are okay right now. They're forecasting that we will receive more income tax receipts than what we actually budgeted for. Where we are going to run into a little bit of a challenge is when it comes to property tax receipts. Yesterday afternoon, the Hamilton County Auditor sent every fiscal officer in Hamilton County a letter stating that it would be proper for every municipality to anticipate a 10% reduction from last year's second half property tax revenue disbursement. The second half of property taxes we received last year for the general fund was $300,000. A 10% reduction of that, therefore, would be $30,000. So the revised general fund property tax receipt would be $595,000. This $30,000 reduction will result, if the numbers hold firm, in a general fund deficit of approximately $17,000 right now. So based on current information, an updated forecast of village general fund revenues is $1.8 million. Current village appropriations are at $1.9 million, creating a deficit of only $17,000. So it's revenues $1,889,000, expense appropriations $1,906,000, leaving a deficit of approximately $17,000. Anticipating that village administration anticipating that we would see some disruption in revenues, have already implemented several steps aimed at containing some of the resources we already have. For example, as Ron mentioned earlier, we've suspended all non-essential spending. We've also reduced some work hours for employees in the village. And we're currently going through each department's budgets, looking for additional opportunities to trim the budget and close this deficit. Now, there are several things we need to keep in mind. The first is the RETA forecast is based on the assumption that the general population will be back to work in Ohio by June 1st. That may or may not be the case. And as a result, we will have to closely monitor this situation and potentially make further adjustments if a stay-at-home order is continued, for example. The other consideration we have at this moment is that for appropriations, we assumed a 10% increase in employee healthcare costs. At this point, we have not received updated pricing as of yet. And in speaking to our broker with Haran, she has stated to us that reasonable expectations are anywhere from 10 to 15% increases. In addition, as the mayor has described, the current situations is going to impact other funding sources of the village, specifically the gas tax, license fees, as well as the local government fund. Fortunately, the 2020 budget was based on, again, a conservative forecast of revenues in each of these areas. With that said, we will still have to continue to monitor and hopefully we'll receive some clarity and forecasting from the state auditor on how these revenue sources are really going to shake out. Again, I want to reiterate that the updates this updated forecast is based on the best information we have available at this time. The dynamics of the response is changing, and these forecasts may require further updating as more information becomes available, specifically as the approaches of the state and federal government changes in how we respond to the COVID-19 pandemic. Again, I want to reiterate that administration has suspended non-essential spending, has reduced some work hours from staff, and we're reviewing other further steps, including opportunities to trim the budget. And last, and this was touched on earlier, I would like to reiterate again that over the last year, we were able to add $200,000 to the reserve. I'm never excited about the possibility of you tapping into the reserve, but extraordinary times call for extraordinary measures. And if we have to, I believe that there is sufficient resources available in the reserve to get us through 2020. That is the end of my report right now. I hope to have an updated reappropriations for consideration for the next council meeting, which I believe is in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
That should give us more time to get a better grasp on what exactly is going on at the state level, because as of right now, we have not received any forecasting measures from them. But we need to start making these changes in the budget. So I'll have that, should have that available for the next council meeting to review and hopefully to approve.
Thank you, Andy. Thank you, Mr. Hirth and Anna and all those that are involved in the fiscal sustainability of the village. Mr. Donnellan, Solicitor's Report.
Yes, thank you. Just a couple matters quickly. First, we have the third reading of Ordinance 2020-3, which is entitled an ordinance adopting Articles 1, 2, and 5 of the Rules and Regulations for the Hamilton County Stormwater District. We need a motion, a second, any discussion, and a roll call vote.
Motion.
Second.
All those.
What, do we have any discussion?
Could you give a brief summary for anyone who's listening here live or on YouTube as to what this is about?
Yeah, we are members of the Hamilton County Stormwater District. They manage the rules and regulation on quantity and quality of stormwater throughout Hamilton County. Periodically, they update their regulations. Many times these regulations are applicable to construction projects. So what they do, which happens every few years, they ask us to approve those as a part of our district membership. So these are these amendments to Articles 1, 2, and 5. And if I recall, the specifics are, again, how do we maintain quality of stormwater runoff from construction sites more than anything else? So we adopt this as part of our regular membership in the district. So what they've done is asked every community to adopt and approve these. So each community's been going through this process over the last month.
Thank you, Mr. Donnellan. Is there any other discussion or are we ready for a roll call vote? Without objection, I'll ask for the roll call.
Mr. Betcher.
Yes.
Ms. Cheney.
Yes.
Mr. Knitt.
Yes.
Mr. Marks.
Yes.
Mr. Van Harn.
Yes.
All voted in favor.
All right.
We will get that down to the village offices so the mayor can sign it, and then we will share that back to the district office to let them know that we have adopted those rules. The second matter is an update on the referendum. At our last meeting, we agreed to defer consideration of validity and sufficiency because a question was in the air relative to an objection filed by one of our residents, Elaine Moskovitz, to some of the signatures on the petitions. The original letter from the board came to us March 2, I believe, which indicated that at that time, we needed 152 signatures to be valid for the referendum to move forward. They had counted 156. We pointed out that their math seemed to be incorrect, asked them to correct that, and then asked them for some guidance as to what they were doing because they've been shut down. There's been some back and forth emails. They have corrected that number, showing that there's 155 valid signatures. And what they have told me in various emails is they would consider any protest after and if council refers this back to the board to put on the November ballot. So this does not go to the ballot until council takes action to make that final referral based upon the petitions having been received. So with that, we're not prejudicing anybody's rights if we take the next step, which we're required to do by charter, which is to make the determination of validity and sufficiency. Validity is just, is it a valid purpose? And obviously anyone can bring a referendum challenge, so it is a valid purpose. The next question is, do they have sufficient signatures? And from what we received to date from the board, we would have to conclude that there are sufficient signatures. So the first step that we need to take is to determine that based on the evidence we have today, April 15th, we determine that it is valid and it is sufficient, and we move to the next step in the process. So that's nothing more than a motion by council and a roll call vote, not a roll call vote, but a voice vote. Are there any questions before we go to a motion? And by the way, I've kept all sides informed as we've gone through this process. I sent an email out on Friday to Rabbi Matzen and council that's appeared on his behalf, letting them know that we may go forward. And I have communicated that as well to Equality Ohio and Ms. Moskowitz, that we would likely need to go forward at this time to meet our requirement of determining validity and sufficiency. I don't think that the letter which we received Friday resets the clock. I think it's just a matter of getting that clarification that we needed to take this next step. No one has been prejudiced because the ordinance has been stayed until such time as it is either referred to the ballot and approved or rejected, or until such time as council votes to reject it and move forward in a different direction. And everybody's understanding of that. Any other questions?
What's before we call the or ask for the motion for this and a vote, what's the next step right after this when we, if we are to, if council is to approve it as being valid, sufficient, what happens after we do that?
By our charter, which is consistent with Ohio law, the next step is for council to refer this to a committee to hold a public hearing. The public hearing is an opportunity for the petitioners, the 3 members of the committee, to come forward and present their case to council and the public, allow council the opportunity to ask questions, and then that committee makes a recommendation back to council. That recommendation could be to revoke the ordinance. That recommendation could be to refer it to the ballot for November. So once we get through the motion on validity and sufficiency, a second motion would be to appoint a council committee. More often than not, rather than appointing 2 or 3 members to conduct a public hearing, most communities will appoint council as a whole to conduct that public hearing. And then our third motion would be to set the date and time for that public hearing and to allow the petitioners to know when that public hearing will occur, and then to provide public notice of the public hearing. One of the things we're all very familiar with that we're dealing right now is the shutdown. The House Bill 197, which was approved a couple weeks ago, allows public hearings, allows public meetings like this. A public hearing by video conference may be very difficult under these circumstances, particularly with the number of people who may want to either attend and speak. So when I sent the communication on Friday to Ms. Moskowitz and to Rabbi Matzen and Judge Hartman, I suggested that we would probably look to June or July for that public hearing, with the hope that the cloud is now lifted and we can actually hold a hearing safely at Community Hall and open it up for public comment. I did not hear back from anybody protesting that. I didn't hear back from anybody saying they agreed with it. So again, these three motions, the one is to determine validity and sufficiency based upon the evidence that we have today. The second motion would be to establish a committee. And then the third motion would be to set a public hearing. I sent around a communication that maybe we want to do this as a standalone meeting and not tag it with one of our council meetings. And a suggestion being look at perhaps Tuesday, July 14th. I believe that's the date. Yes, Tuesday, July 14th, and set that time and that date for that meeting and then start the notice process. A lot of that too is to give people time to react to it. We don't know what people's vacation plans may be, how people's vacation plans may change, but if we get it on the calendar now, people can make plans to be there and we can take appropriate comment and take appropriate action.
I have a quick question. Once we would have a motion around validity and sufficiency, do you then go back to the Board of Elections and inform them of that, and then they will continue their investigation of Ms. Moskovitz?
Good question.
Some of the signatures or what?
What they have indicated through their legal counsel and through Ms. Poland, the executive director, and I confirmed this through Ms. Moskovitz's representatives, is the board won't do anything until we make a determination to send it back to them to put it on the ballot. So if we, after the public hearing, if we vote to refer this to the ballot for November, then if someone protests, they will go through the process of listening or hearing a protest at that time. So if we do this in July, mid-July, there's plenty of time between then and when they fix the ballot in late September for them to make that determination independent of us. That's between the board and whoever wants to present their evidence for or against the sufficiency of those signatures or the validity of those signatures. If the board were to come back at that time and say, we've heard it and there are not valid signatures, then we can react to it at that time. But you can imagine if council would say, we're not going to refer it, we're going to revoke the ordinance, it makes it a moot issue, so there's no need for them to hold a protest hearing.
Are there any other questions? Do I have a motion on the matter of accepting validity and sufficiency?
Make the motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Without objection, I'll take that as unanimous. Do we have a motion on creating the committee as basically the council will be the committee? Everyone, I presume except for me, will have a vote that's an elected official on that matter. Do I have a motion for that?
I make a motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Well, can we, is there discussion to that?
Yes, I apologize. Yes, absolutely.
I'm just wondering, is there any advantage to having, or not advantage, just what is the picture of it being something other than council? I mean, it's another committee or it's a mixture of residents and council. I'm just trying to get a different picture. I don't.
Oh no, it's
just so
it's
how would that work?
It's a committee of council. So if council does not want to do it as a committee as a whole, WHOLE, then they could refer as an example to executive committee, just the 3 members of executive committee. But it's not any group other than council members who hold the public hearing.
Okay, now I understand. Thank you.
Okay.
Well, thank you, Roger. Thank you.
Question?
Mr. Donlin. Yes.
Just for clarification, so it goes to the committee of council, and then they decide whether or not it goes to the ballot, or they get rid of, or they abolish the ordinance. Correct?
The committee just makes a recommendation to council as to what action they believe council should take.
Okay.
So if the committee makes a recommendation and says, council, we believe you should refer this issue to the November ballot, then the next time council convenes, council takes that recommendation. If they accept it, We then tell the Board of Elections, we referred this to the ballot, and they put it on the November ballot for a yes or no vote relative to the ordinance being approved or the ordinance being rejected.
Very
and
good.
this would, for clarification, this would occur after the public hearing, after we've had input from the community as to which way council members should vote on this.
Right.
Right.
Correct. And what we would probably want to look to do, let's say you did make the motion to council as a whole, and you did make a second motion to set it for the evening of July 14th at whatever time. We probably would want to look where our calendaring would be for the summer for that next council meeting. If we feel that there's too much of a gap between the public hearing and when we would next meet, we may, as a matter of fairness, want to hold a special council session to vote on that. Again, so if it is referred to the Board of Election, everyone has plenty of time between then and when the ballot is set to address their issues to the board.
Understood.
So is the only result of the committee to say refer to the ballot or revoke? There isn't any other choice like revoke with revisions or
Well,
so I'm just wondering if there, or is it just that one or that one? Yes, or whatever.
I
yes
think
or
it
no?
has to be I think it has to be yes or no.
Okay.
Because if there was going to be revisions, that would be a whole new ordinance and a whole new process and a whole new 3 readings in 30 days. Because you can imagine if you said, we want to make a modification to this, you may have another group that comes out and says, well, we want to referendum that ordinance. So you can't just simply at the meeting say, how about if we amend it all in favor aye? It would have to go through the long process.
Okay, that makes sense. I just heard you say with recommendations or something. I want to make sure.
Right.
So the outcome is one or the other. That's it for this
Correct.
committee. Okay. All right.
Question. In the instance of a deadlock, mayor breaks the tie, correct?
That's correct.
Is there any other discussion, any other questions for Mr. Donnellan with regard to a motion to form the committee? If not, I'll ask someone to make that motion.
Motion to have council as a whole as the committee.
I'll second.
Second.
All right, all those in
Sorry,
favor?
Danny.
Aye.
Aye.
Without
Aye.
without objection, I'll
Everybody
take that
raise their hand
unanimous.
and say aye that we can count there. 1, 2, 3,
Aye.
4. That's unanimous.
All right.
And then what do you think of the proposal to set this for Tuesday evening, July 14th?
Well, I just looked at the calendar and our council meeting in July, by my info says that meeting is Monday, July 13th. And so there wouldn't be another council meeting until August 17th, which means that you would have a month go by between the
Not
two.
the 27th.
Huh? No, there's only a meeting a month during the summer, right?
So during the summer month, we do summer council break. So there's one meeting scheduled for June, July, and August.
Right.
The council dates can be amended. I don't know that we have to do that here this evening, but that's something that we need to take a look at.
Yeah, we don't need to do that this evening. I will be advocating that we change the summer schedule because there will be business to take care of, that a lot of which we have not been able to attend to as far as the lack of committee meetings and everything. So I will be advocating for the council to relook at our calendar. So,
And one of the things to consider is if we tried to move it up to the prior week, the week of July 6th, that is right off of the 4th of July holiday. Yeah. And if this Corona thing lifts, people may want to take a vacation.
No, I was only bringing it up because right now we have a long gap between that,
right,
this special meeting. But
Lost you, Lou.
Yeah,
you're muted.
Sorry, I'm sorry. Based on that info, I would make a motion that the hearing is 6 p.m. Tuesday, July 14th.
I'll second.
And what time?
6 p.m.
6 p.m. All right.
As is in your email.
So I didn't catch it. Can you repeat the date and time again?
It's in Mr. Donovan's email of Monday.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
1:56 p.m. and it states 6 p.m. Tuesday, July 14th.
All right. And we've had a second, a first, and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Without objection, I'll consider that unanimous.
And what I will do is notify now the three petitioners that is the date and time that we have set. And if I hear back from them that for whatever reason that may not be convenient, we have adequate opportunity to adjust it. And I'll explain again that if we were in regular time or non-COVID time, we likely would be doing this within the next couple of weeks. But it's not practical to have a public hearing with people having an opportunity to ask questions, raise questions, and give presentations through this video conferencing. And the video conferencing really has been intended, whether it's a council meeting or hearing, to be when you need to do something or you need to address something, not just as a routine. So I will explain that to them and invite their comment so that we have adequate time if we need to adjust. Last point is just a question of whether we want to try an executive session for just a couple minutes at the conclusion of the meeting to follow up on some prior issues on imminent or pending litigation. And then if we do we have the technology to limit it to those on the screen and block out those who may be listening by phone or otherwise?
I believe Mr. Hirth and I have determined that the easiest way to pull it off would be, presuming that folks are using computers right now and not their phone, that basically we just mute on here and move away from the screen and use our phones.
Yeah, there's to try and block someone and send them back to the waiting room. Yeah. The meeting is still being recorded and is live on YouTube and on the website. There's no way of stopping that.
And then the irony is you very typically vote to go into executive session, then you come out of executive session in the public meeting and then adjourn.
Right.
So.
Well, I'll be asking for comments from anyone. I'll be asking if Mr. Lanzer received any comments and if anyone who's connected by phone would like to speak at all. So there may potentially be something there, there may not, but that would be the only business when we come back, I believe.
Andy, you're muted.
Sorry about that. I have not received any comments.
Okay. Well, I will ask if there's any comments when we come back of the folks that are on the phone. Typically, when we our regular kind of scheduled programming here is we have committee reports and we don't have those on the agenda. I will offer an opportunity for Chief Campbell if he'd like to make some comments. He's, of course, welcome to. And any of the committee chairs for that matter, if you'd like to make a couple comments, I think that's all right. I would ask not for a long report since that is not on the agenda. But with that, do we have a motion to go into executive session? A little bit of an explanation to anyone that's watching. Executive session is just for the elected officials and the administration, and it's private, so we'd be stepping away from the audio and from the visual. We anticipate that it'll be a fairly short executive session, and then we'll be coming back. We're not allowed to make any votes in executive session. We're not allowed to discuss outside of executive session what we discussed in executive session. And if we are calling an executive session right now, I believe we are doing that for matters of personnel and
pending litigation.
It's simply for the purpose of imminent or pending litigation, just that defined purpose.
All right.
So
are you going into executive session now or after any other reports?
Now is I think what we're going to do, and I need to make sure you all have the phone number and, well,
Yeah, don't state the
Right.
phone number. I sent an email to everybody at 5 o'clock or 5:30.
If you don't have it, can you raise your hand and I'll have Mr. Hirth privately text it to you, not privately text it to you, privately chat it to you here so you can see it. Does anybody need that? So everyone's ready. Should we make a motion to go into executive session?
Make a motion to go into executive session. I'd also recommend everybody on their system mute their
Correct.
microphones.
Excuse me, but where is that number? I'm looking at my email. Sorry about that.
It's on the 6 o'clock email tonight that Mr. Hurst sent, and it's also in Mr. Donovan's Monday at 5:24 p.m. email.
Okay, I just found it. Thank you.
All right, if you'll dial in, I've already set it up and I'm going to step away from the screen.
We need to make the motion.
Oh,
we need a
right.
second.
Roll call vote then.
I'll second.
I need a second.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Or
No, we have to
roll
do
call?
roll call.
Aye.
Mr. Betcher,
Yes.
Ms. Cheney,
Yes.
Mr. Connect,
Yes.
Mr. Marks,
Yes.
Mr. Van Horn.
Yes.
All right. So I am now going to.
Everybody mute their screens.
And for the sake of the lip readers that might be out there, please either step away from your screen or turn off your video. All right. Thank you for your patience, Ms. Simpson, and anyone else who has tuned in. If you were wondering where we were in executive session, and we are coming out of it now. I'm going to, we're pretty much ready to close the meeting. I was going to ask for some final comments. If any of the committee chairs wanted to speak momentarily, I'm going to ask Chief Campbell first off if there's anything that you'd like to share at this time.
We do have a mayor's court report from the chief this evening.
Oh, I did not see that. I apologize. I will request that report then. You are muted if you're not aware of it, Chief Campbell.
Ron might have to unmute him.
Yeah, he's showing as muted.
All right. Any other committee chairs while we're waiting?
I would like to just say a couple things about the fire district.
All right.
If that's okay.
Absolutely, go.
Okay, there's a couple of quick things you need to understand. First of all, I think some of you are aware that the run rate for the year is well below the normal year. So you may have heard that some of the guys are actually a little bored because the number of runs are down significantly this year. We would probably be easily in the 500s by now, and we're at like 424. So it's sort of a good thing. It reduces maintenance and things like that. But because of the COVID-19 virus, we have had to implement a memorandum of understanding with the firefighter union. And what it does is currently in the contract, I won't go through all the detail, but Ron, you just did something. Oh, you got the court. You just took over the court report screen. So anyway, the current contract calls that there has to be a certain number of members of the firefighters union to staff. So what this does is that the MOU allows the board and the fire chief some flexibility to implement staffing, because what could happen is that if somebody on a shift ended up with COVID-19 on a run, that entire shift would have to be taken out of service for 2 weeks, which means you would have to bring in a full shift of people to replace them. And those would probably not be members of the firefighter union. So just letting you know, there's a lot more to that. This could significantly impact costs for the district, because you'd be paying not only the people to come in to replace them, but also you might be paying up to 80% of the salaries of the people who are sitting home for 2 weeks. So this COVID thing could have some pretty interesting tentacles to it if we had a shift of firefighters that had to sit on the sidelines. So just so you know that. The really good news on this is that there was a firefighter that left at the end of December, Brian Nopoulos, to start his own company. He just recently donated 1,000 N95 masks to the Little Miami Fire District. And so Chief Footoff has donated masks to Gulf Manor Police, to Fairfax Police, and to the Columbia Township Sheriff's Office that's sitting out at the Silverton area. So it was very nice of this former firefighter to get us 1,000 N95 masks. They're more much needed. So that's good news. So there you go. I'm finished.
This may be a part of the chief's report. One of the things that came down from the state as recently as, I think it was a couple of days ago, I think it might have been just today that it was publicly announced, is that we have access to the ability to decontaminate those N95, so basically we can reuse those through the, I believe it's the Ohio State Highway Patrol. They're working out details with the municipalities now on how to do that. So they will go even further.
Our guys have also developed a method to decontaminate the squad, back of the squad after every run, to quickly decontaminate it. So that's something else. So that's it. That's all I had.
Thank you, Mr. Marks. Chief Campbell, for the mayor's report.
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. For the month of March, Gulf Manor Mayor's Court forwarded $5,033 to the village, $806.50 to the state. The other line of $129 for a total of $5,968.50. It's the end of the mayor's court report.
Motion to accept the mayor's court report.
Second.
Second.
Mr. Densmore, you're muted.
Thank you. I was asking if we need a roll call or is it just all those in favor?
All those in favor, I would think.
All right. I do not see an objection from Mr. Donnellan, who is muted, but all those in favor. And without objection, I'll take that as unanimous.
Okay.
Thank you, Chief Campbell. Anything else?
Yeah, quickly. Right now, Gulf Manor Police Department, we do have a supply of PPE. We are good at the moment. We do have more on the way. Some things are coming more quickly than others. But at this moment, we're good with the decontamination of the masks and the generosity of Little Miami Fire District as well. We're in a good position as far as PPE goes. Secondly, we've arranged with a hotel, the Hawthorne Suites in Blue Ash, that if officers feel the need to stay there in lieu of going home and potentially carrying something home to their families, they have that ability. No officer is elected to use that as of yet. And like Mayor Densmore said, Ohio State Patrol is coordinating the decontamination and sanitation of N95 masks when needed. We'll participate with that should the need arise. That's all I have right now.
Okay, Chris.
Thank you, Chief.
Can I add that we have also sourced a vendor that if we do have a COVID infestation in the police department, we have somebody who can come in and decontaminate within 24 to 36 hours. That would require moving operations to other sections of the municipal building. And we've got contingent plans to be able to do that if that happens.
That's correct. Thank you.
Chief, I have a question for you.
Sure.
Have you heard anything about a possible uptick in crime or petty stuff or anything because, for lack of a better word, the natives are getting restless or things are, I've heard different things through the military and other stuff, but I wonder if you've heard anything about things to watch for, things that could be, the longer this goes, things that happen. I'm just curious.
We've seen our call volume go down like the fire departments. We have had a couple of incidents of property crime, but that is a ever-present issue. The officers are trying to be as visible as they can to keep an eye on things, particularly at night. With fewer people out, I think the sense is there may be fewer people watching them, so we got to make sure we keep on top of that.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Van Hart.
Sure.
Any other questions or comments? And if not, any other chairs that would like to speak?
Just real quick, I had a couple of things with the Community Engagement Committee, and we've gotten together and discussed. We're going to be meeting again, hopefully through Zoom. I'll get with Ron on exactly how to make that happen. But we're going to try to get together again via online next Thursday, 6 p.m., April 23rd. And so I want to get that on the record. Two, I actually wanted to ask a question.
So Danny, hold on a second. Mr. Donnellan, is that also considered a special meeting of council, a committee?
Yeah, I mean, if the mayor is okay, because the mayor controls.
I can declare it. Yeah.
Okay.
I had asked that. I had told. I apologize. I should have said this more publicly. I spoke to each of the committee chairs and let them know that if they had business that they felt the need to call to order, to just let me know and I would declare it, and we'll go ahead and make that happen.
So with this already being a public meeting, you can consider that as the public notice. If you agree tonight to the time and place, the only follow-up would then be posting it on the website for whatever the access may be.
Make it
Very
so.
good. Very good. Make it so.
And that's probably the last item on our agenda is our next meeting.
Well, I had one question, one little seed to throw out there to get some thoughts maybe from Ron. The July 4th parade and event, in light of recent events, I mean, all this could wrap up in the next week or two and we'd be okay. Or as I suspect, and I think most of you guys suspect, that once the quarantine is lifted, it's still going to be a slow go as far as large crowd-like events. And just wanted everybody to kind of maybe chime in on your thoughts on how that might look if maybe we need to postpone that, or if the current thought right now is let's kind of wait for the next couple of weeks and see what happens to see if we need to postpone that. If we do, the thought is maybe move it out and make an independence celebration down the calendar a little bit.
So I don't think you can make any decision until the end of the month when the governor either decides to move things or freeze things. So I think
exactly. There's, I believe it should be, you know, we should be continuing to talk to one another one-on-one, and when there's committee meetings, particularly like in a committee meeting, like a community engagement, that these kind of conversations occur. But as the governor has stated and has requested that we reiterate to the public that even when the stay-at-home order is lifted, COVID doesn't go away, and there is no vaccine for it. So there's going to still need to be some adjustments that are made for public safety moving forward. And those will have to be, you know, foremost on our mind as we're planning around these things. But yeah, certainly right now we can't be making a decision about it.
Right. I just want to throw that seed out there to see if there was any discussion that happened behind the scenes that I should be aware of to take into my committee meeting.
Actually, there are discussions that are taking place behind the scenes. Sergeant Reed is usually the person who coordinates the parade. At this point in time, he's not finding any vendors who will commit to any date until the COVID situation is resolved. Same thing for vendors. The other issue is we've been supported heavily by the Cincinnati Circus over the past several years for all of our activities. I would find it very difficult to go to Dave Williker once he gets back up and running and asking him for anything free.
Yep.
So it may be that we end up just having our police cars and our fire trucks do the parade this year and not invite people to the park. I agree that we need to wait and see how this plays out, but those are some of the realities that we're seeing at this point.
Everyone, I apologize. If you're not finished up, I need to take off.
Okay. Are there any other, Mr. Betcher, did you want to speak?
Nothing to report.
Okay. Ms. Cheney, anything to report?
No, we can skip it.
All right.
We did have an LSDMC meeting, but the only thing we agreed to was to keep the lead agency of the YMCA. And then we heard from the teachers about how difficult this time is and the principal. That's all.
Thank you.
Danny, can you confirm the date of your meeting again, please?
Yes, sir. April 23rd. That's a Thursday, 6 p.m.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. I'm going to ask Ms. Simpson if you're currently muted. If you have any questions that you have for us, or anyone. I guess I don't see anybody else that's joined us by phone, but I'll just put this out there anyway. If anyone would like to ask any questions or make any statements, I'm asking for that now.
I have no questions.
Thank you, Ms. Simpson. All right. I want to thank everyone, and again, please be safe. Continue to propagate the message about the next 2 weeks being the most contagious predicted to be the most contagious of this time. In instances where maybe you felt it wasn't important to be covering your mouth, moving forward, probably a good idea to do that. And again, want to just thank everyone for doing what they're doing, large and small. And with that, I'll ask if there's a motion to close the meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
Before we do, are we going to meet again on the 27th? So we have that notice out there starting to.
My plan was that we would be meeting on the 27th. The way we've done it before is that I would just make a public statement about that would be put up on the web and to the Inquirer and everything. But if you're saying that's sufficient to do it this way, then.
Well, yeah, under these crazy times, when we make the announcement at the meeting tonight, that is a public announcement of the meeting, but we would still need to follow up on the web page and with the Inquirer, identifying the type of access, video conference or telephone conference. So all we're doing right now is saying, yes, we are going to hold another meeting on Monday, April 27th at 7 p.m.
Yes, I think that there are a number of good reasons, business-wise, to be having that meeting. So I will be calling that meeting on the, said it was the 27th. And
so is that at 7 p.m.?
That's what I would prefer. And I know some folks were preferring 6:30. I would prefer 7. Is there any objection to that?
I prefer 7.
Okay, so be it. And we'll release more details about the ways of making that connection in the next week or so. All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, without objection, I'll take that as unanimous. Thank you. It's good seeing all your faces.
Have a good one.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody. Good night.
Yeah.
Good night.
Good night.